April 5, 2010. A classified Apache helicopter video hits the internet. In it, U.S. soldiers gun down 12 civilians in Baghdad, including 2 Reuters journalists they mistook for insurgents. Pilot laughs. This footage should have stayed buried in Pentagon servers forever. Instead, 5 million people watch it in 24 hours. In Langley, CIA Director Leon Panetta calls an emergency meeting. Every intelligence agency in America is hunting one man. But here's what terrified them. This video was nothing. The hacker had 750,000 classified files ready to publish. He'd already broken into NASA, the Pentagon, and Los Alamos Nuclear Laboratory as a teenager. And when the CIA came for him, he'd steal their entire hacking arsenal and publish it. For the next 14 years, he'd humiliate the world's most powerful intelligence apparatus from a single room. Who was this man? And how do you kill someone the world is watching? September 1991. Australian federal police smashed through the door of a suburban Melbourne house. Inside, 20-year-old Julian Assange sits frozen at his Commodore Amiga, connected via modem to the Canadian telecommunications system Nortel. The police have been tracking him for 2 years under Operation Weather. He's hacked systems belonging to NASA, the Pentagon's Defense Network, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and Motorola. Under the handle Mendox, he's become the most sophisticated hacker in the Southern Hemisphere. The judge reads 31 charges. Assange pleads guilty 25. The maximum sentence is 10 years per charge. But Judge Leslie Ross sees something unusual. This hacker never stole money, never sold secrets, never damaged systems. He only looked. On December 5, 1996, Ross delivers his verdict. No prison time, just a $2,100 fine. There is just no evidence that there was anything other than sort of intelligent inquisitiveness, the judge says. Assange walks free with a criminal record and a dangerous new understanding. Governments classify documents not to protect citizens, but to protect themselves from citizens. He vanishes into the cypherpunk movement, a loose network of 1,400 programmers building encryption tools to protect privacy from government surveillance. By 1997, Assange runs one of the first public-facing websites about cryptography. He co-authors Underground, a book about hacker culture that becomes required reading in computer security courses. He develops Rubberhose, encryption software that hides data so thoroughly that authorities can't even prove it exists. The Australian government tries to ban it under weapons regulations. Assange realizes he's building something bigger than code. He's building weapons for an information war. October 4, 2006. Assange registers wikileaks.org through a proxy in Sweden. The site's first design document outlines an audacious goal. Create an uncensorable Wikipedia for leaked documents, combining cryptographic protection with legal havens to publish secrets no government can suppress. Within weeks, he's assembled a shadow board of advisors, including Pentagon Papers, leaker Daniel Ellsberg, and cryptographer John Gilmore. If you like this deep dive into how one hacker changed history, hit subscribe. In December 2006, WikiLeaks publishes its first document, a Somali government assassination order. By August 2007, they've exposed a Kenyan government hit list that names 500 targets for extrajudicial killing. The leak wins Assange the 2008 Economist Index on Censorship Award. In 2008, Swiss bank Julius Baer gets a U.S. court order shutting down WikiLeaks for publishing evidence of tax evasion, Cayman Irons. The site reappears on 20 mirror servers within hours, and the bank withdraws its lawsuit. Assange has proven his system works, but he needs something bigger, something that will force the world to pay attention. He needs a source inside the American war machine. Who will risk everything to expose the truth about Iraq and Afghanistan? And what happens when the most secretive military in history discovers its entire playbook has been stolen? May 21, 2010. Bradley Manning, a 22-year-old Army intelligence analyst at Forward Operating Base Hammer in Iraq, initiates an encrypted chat with someone called Nathaniel Frank, Julian Assange's alias. Manning has already sent WikiLeaks 251,287 diplomatic cables burned onto a CD labeled Lady Gaga. The analyst downloaded them from Cybernet, the Pentagon's classified network, while lip-syncing to song lyrics at their workstation. No one noticed because everyone brought music to cope with 14-hour shifts analyzing combat footage. On July 25, 2010, WikiLeaks publishes 91,000 documents. The Afghan War Diary. Page 1 alone reveals Task Force 373, a Black Ops kill squad targeting a list of 2,000 people without trial. Page 47 documents coalition forces killing 47 civilians at a wedding. Page 2854 exposes Pakistani intelligence actively funding the Taliban while taking billions in U.S. aid. The Pentagon claims the leaks endanger informants. Assange points out he offered to redact names if the Defense Department identified them, but they refused. 3 months later, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates admits in a private memo, "The review to date has not revealed any sensitive intelligence sources and methods compromised." October 22, 2010, WikiLeaks releases 391,832 Iraq war logs. One document describes U.S. forces discovering detainees with drill holes in their legs at an Iraqi government facility, then being ordered to hand the victims back to their torturers. The logs record 66,081 civilian deaths, 15,000 more than the Pentagon's public count. Each entry includes grid coordinates, unit identification, and casualty figures. The U.S. military's own documentation contradicts 6 years of official statements. On November 28, 2010, State Department cables begin flooding newspaper front pages. One reveals German ministers provided intelligence to the U.S. while publicly opposing the Iraq War. Another shows France's President Sarkozy begging America to keep French opposition to the war secret from French voters. Another one catches Saudi King Abdullah demanding the U.S. cut off the head of the snake by bombing Iran. Hillary Clinton orders diplomats to steal DNA samples and iris scans from UN officials in violation of international law. The retaliation begins in hours. PayPal freezes WikiLeaks' account, cutting off 50% of its funding. Visa and MasterCard ban all transactions, later ruled illegal by Iceland's Supreme Court. Amazon deletes WikiLeaks from its servers. Senator Joe Lieberman calls for prosecuting the New York Times for publishing the cables. Mike Huckabee demands Manning's execution on television. Vice President and later President Biden labels Assange a high-tech terrorist on Meet the Press. Finally, on December 7, 2010, Interpol issues a red notice for Assange on Swedish sexual assault allegations, charges that Swedish prosecutors had dropped 3 months earlier, then mysteriously reinstated the day after Cablegate began. Assange turns himself in to British police. Judge Howard Riddle grants bail at £240,000. The Swedish prosecutor appeals and Assange spends 10 days in solitary confinement at Wandsworth Prison, while celebrities including Michael Moore and Bianca Jagger raise his bail. On December 16th, he emerges wearing an electronic ankle monitor that transmits his location to police every 60 seconds. How does a publisher fight extradition while the world's most powerful government builds an espionage case against him? And why would Ecuador, a country smaller than Nevada, pick a fight with the United States? June 19, 2012. Assange walks into Ecuador's embassy at 3 Hans Crescent Knightsbridge, a first-floor flat behind Harrods department store. Scotland Yard has followed him since he left his lawyer's office. They watch him enter but can't follow. The 1961 Vienna Convention makes the embassy Ecuadorian soil. Outside, officers begin a vigil that will cost British taxpayers £12.6 million over 3 years. Inside, President Rafael Correa grants Assange political asylum, declaring him a victim of political persecution. The embassy measures 2,153 square feet, smaller than a tennis court. Assange's bedroom is a converted women's bathroom with a treadmill, a sun lamp to prevent rickets, and a white noise machine to mask conversations from laser microphones aimed at the windows. He adopts a kitten named James, who wears striped ties for Twitter photos. The Ecuadorian staff initially embraced their famous guest. Cultural attaché Fidel Narvaez teaches him Spanish. They play soccer in the hallway until neighbors complain. October 2016. WikiLeaks publishes 50,000 emails from Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. The messages reveal Clinton received debate questions in advance from CNN contributor Donna Brazil, transcripts of Wall Street speeches she refused to release publicly, and internal polls showing Bernie Sanders posed a bigger threat than acknowledged. The Democratic National Committee accuses Russia of orchestrating the hack, and U.S. intelligence agencies confirm Russian military intelligence provided the emails to WikiLeaks. Assange denies knowing his source's identity. WikiLeaks' submission system prevents even him from identifying leakers. The publications split Assange's support base. Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden publicly distanced themselves. The Guardian, his former partner, publishes an editorial calling him a useful idiot. Inside the embassy, relationships deteriorate. Assange accuses staff of spying. They complained he skateboarded at 3 a.m., didn't clean his bathroom, and let James defecate on embassy carpets. In October 2016, Ecuador cuts its internet after the Podesta leaks. Pamela Anderson visits monthly, bringing vegan meals and messages from the outside world. March 2018. Ecuador's new president, Lenin Moreno, calls Assange an inherited problem and a spoiled brat. The embassy installs signal jammers, forbids visitors, and threatens eviction if Assange makes political statements. Security footage later reveals UC Global, a Spanish security firm, recorded Assange's privileged attorney conversations and provided the footage to the CIA. Former employees testify the agency discussed kidnapping or poisoning Assange. One plan involved staging a car accident during a medical transfer. Another suggested exploiting his love of cats by poisoning embassy cats' food. December 2018. The Guardian publishes a story claiming Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort secretly visited Assange 3 times. No visitor logs, photos, or witnesses support the claim. The story collapses within days, but the damage is done. Assange is now tied to Russiagate in the public imagination. Ecuador's government seizes on the controversy. Foreign Minister José Valencia flies to London with an ultimatum. Behind closed doors, U.S. prosecutors have prepared an indictment under seal since 2011. They're waiting for one thing: Assange to step outside. What classified program will finally give them justification to demand his head? And who inside the CIA will leak their own agency's darkest secrets? March 7, 2017. WikiLeaks publishes the infamous Vault 7, 8,761 documents from the CIA's cyberweapons arsenal. Page 1 describes Weeping Angel, malware that turns Samsung smart TVs into listening devices while displaying a fake off screen. Page 1043 details how to hack WhatsApp, Signal, and Telegram before encryption activates. Page 5227 reveals Umbridge, a program to steal Russian malware and use it in CIA operations, leaving false digital fingerprints to frame Moscow. The CIA's engineering development group has been gutted. Someone stole the agency's entire hacking toolkit. Exploits affecting Apple iOS, Google Android, Microsoft Windows, and even vehicle control systems in cars and trucks. The breach includes source code, developer notes, and internal memos discussing which American companies secretly cooperate with surveillance. One leaked document shows the CIA hoarded vulnerabilities in U.S. software instead of alerting manufacturers, leaving millions of Americans exposed to foreign hackers who might discover the same flaws. On April 13, 2017, CIA Director Mike Pompeo delivers his first public speech. WikiLeaks walks like a hostile intelligence service and talks like a hostile intelligence service, he declares at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Behind his controlled fury is panic. The CIA believes Vault 7 came from an insider, possibly a contractor in the agency's Center for Cyber Intelligence. They're investigating 200 suspects. Pompeo brands WikiLeaks a non-state hostile intelligence service, creating a new legal category that strips it of First Amendment protections. Internal CIA documents obtained by Yahoo News reveal the agency's 8th floor went batshit crazy. Officers draw up plans to break into the Ecuador embassy through a window. Another proposal involves crashing a car into Assange's vehicle if he leaves for medical treatment. The CIA station in London increases surveillance. They map every exit, track embassy staff schedules, and maintain 24/7 observation posts in neighboring buildings. Senior officials request sketches, CIA terminology for assassination plans. "We were going to do everything possible to take him out," recalls one officer. The Justice Department accelerates its case. Prosecutors abandon the computer hacking charge from 2010 as too weak. Instead, they build an Espionage Act case around the Manning leaks, arguing Assange actively solicited classified information. It's the first time the 1917 law targets a publisher rather than a government employee. Press freedom groups warn this precedent threatens every journalist who publishes classified material. WikiLeaks continues attacking the intelligence community. They publish CIA assessments of foreign elections, NSA interception capabilities, and 16,000 procurement documents showing which private companies sell surveillance equipment to agencies. Each publication feels like a taunt. Ecuador's government reaches a breaking point. President Moreno needs a $4.2 billion IMF loan that the Trump administration can block. U.S. officials make their position clear. They want Assange. What excuse will Ecuador use to revoke his asylum? And how will London police handle arresting a man who's become a symbol to millions? Finally, on April 10, 2019, Ambassador Jaime Marchand enters the embassy conference room where Assange is reading. "The asylum is over," Marchand announces. Assange doesn't move. He suspected this moment was coming since Ecuador's government accused him of hacking their computer systems, charges his lawyers call fabricated. At 10 p.m., the ambassador formally notifies Assange his protection ends at dawn. Assange demands to speak with his lawyers, but Ecuador refuses. He barricades himself in his room with a fire extinguisher. The day after, 7 Metropolitan Police officers enter the embassy. Assange has wedged himself in his bathroom doorway. "This is unlawful," he shouts, as officers pry his fingers from the doorframe. They carry him horizontally down the stairs. Outside, he clutches Gore Vidal's History of the National Security State, while screaming, "UK must resist. You can resist. Resist this attempt by the Trump administration." A police van door slams. 7 years of asylum end in 4 minutes. At Westminster Magistrates Court, District Judge Michael Snow finds Assange guilty of breaching bail. "You are a narcissist who cannot get beyond your own selfish interests," Snow declares. The sentence is 50 weeks in HMP Belmarsh, Britain's Guantanamo Bay. Hours later, the U.S. unseals its indictment. 17 counts under the Espionage Act, 1 count of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, with a maximum sentence of 175 years. The charges center on 2010's publications, carefully avoiding Vault 7 to prevent the CIA's methods from being discussed in open court. Belmarsh Prison places Assange in Unit B, alongside terrorists and serial killers. He spends 23 hours daily in a 3x2-meter cell. His weight drops to 52 kilograms. Prison doctors diagnosed severe depression and autism spectrum disorder. On May 1, 2019, he appears via video link for a U.S. extradition hearing. He struggles to state his own name. UN Special Rapporteur Niels Melzer visits and diagnoses psychological torture. 60 doctors sign a letter warning Assange may die in custody. January 4, 2021. District Judge Vanessa Bereitzer blocks extradition, not on press freedom grounds, but because Assange would likely commit suicide in American custody. She cites the case of Chelsea Manning, who attempted suicide twice in U.S. detention. The Biden administration appeals, offering diplomatic assurances Assange won't face solitary confinement or be sent to ADX Florence Supermax. On December 10, 2021, the High Court reverses Bereitzer's decision. 1 year later, on June 17, 2022, Home Secretary Priti Patel signs the extradition order. Assange appeals to the High Court, then the Supreme Court, then the European Court of Human Rights, but each appeal fails. His lawyers argue extradition violates Article 10 of the European Convention, freedom of expression. The courts rule national security trumps press freedom. Meanwhile, Major newspapers that published the same cables faced no charges. March 20th, 2024. After 1,901 days in Belmarsh, Assange enters final appeal hearings. His wife, Stella, they married in prison in 2022, holds their two sons' hands outside court. Presidents of Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia call for his release. Tucker Carlson interviews Vladimir Putin, who claims Russia played no role in the DNC leaks. The CIA refuses to confirm or deny whether plans to kill Assange existed. 2 months later, in a shocking reversal, the High Court allows Assange to appeal on grounds the U.S. might deny him First Amendment protections as an Australian citizen, and on June 24, 2024, Assange appears in Saipan, Northern Mariana Islands. He pleads guilty to one Espionage Act charge in exchange for time served. After 14 years, Julian Assange boards a private jet to Australia. Free, but forever branded a felon for publishing true information about American wars. The man who exposed military murders, diplomatic deceptions, and intelligence criminality walks away with a criminal record. The officials who ordered torture, conducted illegal surveillance, and lied to Congress walk away with pensions. Every major newspaper on Earth published the documents Assange leaked. Only he went to prison. That precedent now hangs over every journalist who receives classified information. The next time someone films a war crime, records illegal surveillance, or documents government corruption, they'll remember what happened to Julian Assange. And they'll have to decide, is the truth worth 175 years? Because that's the price America just put on transparency. The question isn't whether another WikiLeaks will emerge, it's whether anyone will dare to run it. But one man watched Assange's persecution unfold and still chose to leak the NSA's darkest secrets. He knew they'd hunt him forever. He knew he'd never see home again. And he did it anyway. Watch how Edward Snowden outsmarted the world's most powerful surveillance agency and lived to tell about it.